All right, so good afternoon, good morning, good evening. This is, I'll name this segment later, GTG spits that grease, etc., etc., etc. Uh, title still in progress. If the title of this video hasn't given me away yet, I wanted to speak to you guys about why did Wings of Redemption and ReviewTechUSA fail in their chosen professions? And then I kind of answered my question. Because they did whatever they wanted and weren't willing to accept consequences and take accountability for their actions. That's really the reason, to be honest. It's really as point and shoot as that. But let's kind of develop on this, if you will. I've given us a foundation. Not sure if it's the strongest foundation, but I've given us a foundation, so let's see if we can build off of it. So let's simplify it a bit. Why is it that Wings of Redemption and ReviewTechUSA failed in what they did? Well, first off, before I tell you why they failed, or we even get into the discussion for that, I should really get into, well, what is it that they did? Or what is it that they were doing? Truth be told, between the two, I would say that Wings of Redemption was far more successful than ReviewTechUSA was. Despite how fleeting, obviously, Wings' reign was. Wings, and I still stand by this, was a kingmaker at one time as it pertains to the Call of Duty community. He's one of the few people early on who talked about topics in his Call of Duty gameplay. He's not the first, but he's one of the first. So it makes him a pioneer. Maybe even one of the front runners, but he damn sure didn't establish the what was known as the Call of Duty trails back in those days. As well as he opened himself up to his audience as it pertains to different things about himself, his interests, stuff like that. The problem with Wings in particular, really, it's not so much, well, it's him as a person. Who he is as a person deep down is his major flaw. For sure. Because Wings, or Jordy, is an asshole. He is a piece of shit, a product of corn-pone country pussy, who believes he's smarter than what he is. And he's not. He's not. This is somebody, ladies and gentlemen, who spent years calling people college or high school dropouts, calling them fucking assholes, calling them potheads, calling them drug addicts, this, that, and the third. And come to find out, Wings is actually a high school dropout. Come to find out, not that we had to find out about this, but Wings is theoretically an addict. Because without his Adderall, well, ask Kelly how her back doing. And not if her back hurt in a good way. Ask her how her back's doing. Ask her how the back of her head's doing. That right there is the product of not having his Adderall, not having his drug, not having his bag of choice at hand. He's become exactly what he used to shit on his brother for. Just in case you don't know, Jordy has a brother, and Jordy's brother's a drug addict. Jordy's no different. So he has spent all them years talking about people being stupid, being ignorant, talking about drug addicts and shit, talking about people who were beneath him or who were just nowhere on his league, and now look at where he's at. He's no different than any of those people. Because he didn't have any real humility. He wasn't humble. He didn't mind sharing himself with people, right? To try to make himself seem more approachable, make himself seem more personable, right? To humanize himself, if you will. But if you criticized anything that he said, he would instantly lash out at you. That's the reason why the Wings troll community is as big as it is. So that's his problem from a personality standpoint. And he's jealous and he's envious of other people, to be honest with you. He still is. And that falls back to Wings' gameplay. Now, I could literally fucking write up a college thesis about his Call of Duty gameplay and content creation, as well as his Rainbow Six, because I followed both of them rather closely, at least for a time. But I'll focus on Call of Duty because I feel like it speaks more to his core. There's no reason why, even to this very day, that Wings of Redemption isn't one of the front runners when it comes to Call of Duty content. Would he be able to pull 100,000 views of video in like 24 hours or even 48 hours? No. In a week? Maybe. I think in a week he could, but not like some of these guys out here now that can throw out a video and, in 4 or 5 days, they have 500,000 views. Well, in 2 or 3 days, to be honest with you, they could have 500,000 views. He's not going to see views like that, not in the short term, but in the long term. The reason why, or one of the downfalls to Wings as it pertains to Call of Duty, was anybody who wasn't playing multiplayer, which if you weren't playing multiplayer, you were basically a zombies player. He looked at zombie players like they were trash. He looked at them as second-class citizens. He looked at them as, you weren't good enough to be multiplayer. You guys weren't good enough for multiplayer, so you went to zombies. You went to a game mode where they can't shoot back at you. And he was wrong, because fundamentally, the majority of people who play multiplayer play zombies. It's just a thing, to be honest with you. And there's a lot of utility that comes out of playing zombies that can help you in multiplayer. Anywho, but Wings didn't see the value in that. Wings has never actually saw the value in the Call of Duty zombie community, to be honest with you. So when the situation with Syndicate happened, which is ironic because Syndicate now is looked at as a liar and a massive cheater as it pertains to Call of Duty because of a particular zombies video he made in this series of zombie videos that he had back in the day. I'll trust me, I'll talk your guys' ear off about that later. But the point is that in that particular video, which is so goddamn old now, has to be like a decade old plus at this particular point, they found out that he lied and whatnot. People had suspected it, but because of popularity in his name, they let it slide. But he actually lied, and he actually cheated and lied in that video and lied about it in that video. And it's kind of stained his reputation, which is ironic because when Wings challenged Syndicate, or when Syndicate challenged Wings, whatever, to that 1v1, and Wings got completely tore up from the floor up, and he got mad and he fucking bitched out, "Why'd you record that shit?" To Woody and all that lame ass shit. And then behind the scenes, Wings reached out to Syndicate and said, "Hey, maybe let's do another one, but let me win." And then the third one, it was going to be a draw or whatever. Wings was trying to stay face, and he was willing to share some money to have it happen, which is the earmarks of a coward, being that he really didn't understand what the fuck he was doing or what he was talking about. Like, Syndicate, whether you like him or not, is a proven Call of Duty multiplayer. One of the people who in the zombie community who I like to watch, well, there's a few people. Noah's one of them. Mr. Waffles. There's a few others, but those guys are multiplayer heads too. Those guys are massive multiplayer heads. It's not just zombies. They've made their name off zombies, but they're all multiplayer guys too. Wings underestimated Syndicate, to be honest. He underestimated him. He got beat. Then behind the scenes, he tried to basically bribe him into, let's take it to it. Let's have a follow up. Then we'll have a third match where we break even or whatever, so he can stay face. Syndicate said, I lost a lot of respect for you for that shit. Fuck you. And Syndicate ends up outing him. And that completely fucked over Wings' reputation as it pertains to Call of Duty. But the truth is, that was only one component. If you go back to the whole thing with Brandy, if you go back to the, what was the other chick's name? What was the other girlfriend's name? I can't think of it at the moment. But there was another chick in there too that he was taking care of her kids or whatever. And he had to up his video. He had to up his video production and video uploading to compensate for the amount of money he was spending, and it wasn't working because he was oversaturating his own market. You jump into 2 videos a day, 3 videos a day back in those days is one thing. You sitting there literally just trying to fucking flood the goddamn market with like 6 to 8 videos or whatever retardation that Wings was doing at that time. It killed his market because it killed the demand. He made himself too accessible, and by proxy, he ended up fucking up his market value. On top of that, so him basically being a simp and a cuck basically costed him. But it wasn't just that either. One of the things with Wings that really always stood out to me was his style. Wings is a full-blown camper. We call those anchors now, by the way. If you think about it from a professional standpoint, professional Call of Duty, you call them anchors now. But he was a camper. He's theoretically the original. He's one of the original campers, if not the most famous camper. And he's probably, or at least he was, one of probably the best anchors out there. The problem is because Wings is jealous, because Wings is a bitch, and he has a lot of bitch in his blood, he couldn't accept what he was known for and try to build off of it and do better. Similar to like what Black Worm did with his camping style that we saw in Black Ops 2. If you guys are 402 Thunder fans, you know exactly what I'm talking about. He couldn't do. Matter of fact, if I can, I might even put a clip of that shit in here, and I'll show you what Black Worm used to do back in the day. I might put that out there, but Wings couldn't accept that because you got to remember when Wings came up at a time where you had your Randy Savages, you had your Mark J's, you had Woody's Gamer Tag, you had a bunch of AR guys, you had a bunch of shotgun guys, you had a bunch of rushers, and so camping wasn't looked at as exciting, but it produced results. At the end of the day, yes, you're going to have a Mark J drop 30 or 40. You're going to have a Randy Savage that's going to drop 30 or 40. Fuck. Thunder on the AR and shit, or Mr. Soldier, or Fisticuff, or goddamn, damn dude, Jive Turkey, any of those old heads back in those days, you know what I'm saying, your OGs, if you will. They call them, I think they call those guys legacy players now, but OGs. All them guys used to drop crazy numbers on their gameplays and shit. But Wings did it through camping, and he was good at it. I mean, Wings could literally dismantle an entire team because one, he was very good at using his teammates as meat shields, and two, he could, once he got dug in, it was very, very difficult to get him out because he had pretty decent aim, and he could compose himself. He can't do that no more. I mean, truth be told, he probably hasn't been able to do that in many years at this particular point. He doesn't have the patience for it because now people have hybrid styles. You don't have people who are just pure rushers anymore. You don't have people who are point men or shotgun players anymore. You got people who hybrid between that shit. You got people who are very versatile in the weapons and armament and ordnance that they use. And truth be told, you have to really think now to be a camper, and Wings isn't that smart. That's just the reality of it. He never really was. He talks like he's smarter than what he really is. And he couldn't accept his place. He could have gone down as one of the great campers of Call of Duty, but he didn't because he was too self-conscious. He couldn't accept who he was, and he wasn't good enough to do anything else. That's kind of the reality of it. On top of that, because of his jealousy and envy for other content creators who are making more money and doing it better and with less effort, so to speak, he couldn't handle that either. You could say he was just a product of a bygone era, but I honestly don't look at it that way because I think there's something endearing about Wings, even now, not to me, but to most people, where people would be willing to overlook shit and people would still be willing to support him. It wasn't long ago, ladies and gentlemen, was it 2013 maybe? Might have been 2013, maybe early 2014. He thought about putting out Call of Duty content again on his YouTube channel, as well as I think he was thinking about doing some Rainbow Six stuff. And there were people that were happy for him to do it. Problem is, he ended up taking the video down after it went up. Why was that? Because he was expecting 60, 80, $100,000 out the gate. Views out the gate. And I think before he pulled it down, he was somewhere between 15 and 25,000 views. And he's not willing to build off of that. He didn't look at that as like, okay, that's the metric right now. That's our starting point. I can build from this. I have a good idea. I have a pretty decent metric of where I'm at. So all we got to do is build off of it. In the Call of Duty community, having old heads who still have something to say is it's a novelty, to be honest with you. It's something that people look forward to, especially if they used to watch you for a period of time. You got to understand, not everybody who followed Wings back in the day keeps up with the troll nonsense that's been going on since 2015, 2016. So there's still a market there for him. On top of that, seeing him doing collab with someone like maybe, let's see, Fisticuff is still active. Obviously 402 Thunder's still active. Mr. Soldier's still active. There's some old heads that are still active out there that he could, team up with. There's some of these younger guys out here that are willing to deal with him. Why not? But he doesn't recognize his value because he already pissed it away, on top of the fact that he believes it's already been taken away from him. So he has nothing to fight for. It's really pathetic, to be honest with you, but that's what sums up Wings of Redemption. He's a pathetic little person. He always was. He was, you know what I'm saying? Like I said, I remember him as a kingmaker because he put a lot of people on. And he should have been happy for their success. Instead, he put them on with the expectation that if they did get big, they would reach back to him, which some of them would have. But by then he had already tainted his name and everything, that it didn't mean anything. Or when he made the jump to Rainbow Six, aka Carry the Diamond, he had a good thing going with that too. But he kept entertaining those trolls, he kept antagonizing those trolls, and he kept telling them, or he basically kept pushing them to do something, and then they finally did. On top of the fact that some of the people who were already in his fan base turned against him. And I guess he thought he could treat them like any which way, and they never would. He fucked around and he found out. And then obviously business opportunities that he could have taken advantage of, or, you know, ways of proving himself and proving that he still had value, proving that he still had fight in him. He just didn't act upon it. And that's what pretty much ended Wings of Redemption, Jordy. Now at current, he's basically back on Lolcow Live. At the time that I'm recording this, it hasn't been cemented yet. He's gone back on there for a follow-up show to explain his side and to get his grievances out. He hasn't shown back up on the show yet at the time that I'm recording this. He's gonna go back. Lolcow Live needs him. He needs Lolcow Live. End of story. Him doing his own streams with Kelly right now, he's making himself look like the abusive piece of shit that we all know that he is. And he's not doing himself any favors. Kelly's only humoring him because she needs him to get back over there to get the cash flow going, and so on and so forth. Speaking of which, let me ask, because every charity walk or run that I've participated in, there was never any money required. I mean, you could donate, obviously, and you should, to be honest. But there was never, the way Kelly describes it for these 5Ks, that they have to pay into this. What are they paying into exactly? Now, if they're writing it off later, because people do that, then that's fine. So then Jordy shouldn't be bitching any which way, because whatever money that they're giving up, he's writing it off on the taxes later. But what money is she talking about that she needs for these 5Ks? I don't get it. I mean, unless she needs like shoes and apparel or whatever, but outside of that, if they're donating money to these charities or to these events, which I'm sure they do, that can be written off. So I don't understand what Wings is bitching about. But then Wings wouldn't tell you that because Wings is a scumbag. I just thought I'd throw that out there for posterity's sake. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we get to the part I'm going to take a bit more pleasure in, and we're going to shit on ReviewTechUSA. Okay, sorry about that. Had to step away for a second. Okay, so ReviewTechUSA. Okay, I've had my nice little monologue about Wings. ReviewTechUSA. Okay, so where did ReviewTechUSA go wrong? Truth be told, ReviewTechUSA has been hustling ass backwards since the beginning. He never really reviewed tech nor games. He really just gave his opinion on news and rumors, basically. I mean, truth be told, the situation that basically blew him up and, you know, gave him his first real shot was an article about the Xbox 720, which was basically a gag story that happened at that time. And if he had presented it as such, it'd have been fine. But see, Rich don't do his research. And Rich likes to go ahead by the seat of his fucking pants because mommy and daddy are always taking care of his ass. So he tried to pass it off as if it was real news, probably because he really thought it was. And that's essentially his first viral video. That's really what kind of got him started. So he basically got his start by being a fraud, by being lazy and being inept. And truth be told, he kept doing it ever since. Now, Rich has had developed quite the viewer base and fan base over the years. A lot of them like how outspoken he is. Rich, and I hate to admit this, but I'll be honest about it, far more honest than he is, Rich has a voice for radio, to be honest. He just needs an itinerary program that needs to be laid out to him, and someone who feeds him the news. He gives his opinion on it. They give their opinion on it, and then they move on. If he's in that type of situation and in that type of structure, he'll do incredibly well. If he's left to his own devices, he's where he's at for a reason. That's just the way it is, truth be told. He has the voice for it. He doesn't have the brain for it. He doesn't have the mind for it. He doesn't handle criticism, so it has to be, it has to be damn near a one-way conversation and whatnot, because he really can't deal with criticism otherwise. Either he's going to try to fight back and just be wrong, or he's going to lay on his back and take it. End of story. So even in that structure, he couldn't turn it into a call-in show. He's not built for that. He's not built for criticism like that. He's just not. It's just, that's not a thing. Like I said, they set up a program for him. They set up a bunch of topics and news results or whatever. They even play some clips for him. Someone reads the article to him, gives his opinion. They give their opinion. They move on. If you do it like that, he can produce a 90-minute show easy. Easy. I could literally write that shit up right fucking now and whatnot, and he'd be gold. Now, I'm not going to do that because fuck Rich and fuck Rich all day. But it's literally that easy. The fact that he hasn't figured that out after all these years is fucking wild to me. I think Jay tried to accomplish something like that with him, but like most people who try to help Rich out in one way or another, he ended up getting screwed over, which is one of Rich's biggest problems. 1, Rich is stupid. 2, Rich is greedy. 3, Rich is exceptionally greedy. 4, Rich is spiteful. Rich does not value people. He doesn't value Lauren, which is his baby's mom. He don't value his kids. He don't value his parents. He don't value anybody. That's why he screws everybody over at one time or another. He will, sooner than later. It's just what he is. He cares about nothing but himself, all about his own self-indulgence, his own triumphs. Those are few and far between if he's ever even had any. And if he fails, it's somebody else's fault. Or he has a multitude of excuses on why he failed, and you can't really put it all on him because of circumstances. Rich is the textbook example of what he could have been if he was willing to give a fuck. Quite literally. If he was able to take a little bit of criticism, if he was able to actually evaluate himself a little bit, if he was willing to reach out to other people and say, hey, I need help, instead of using people, right? Because everybody, okay, let's call a spade a spade. Everybody uses people, right? In one way, shape, or form, but no one's out to be misused. ReviewTechUSA uses people. So you're not helping him, you are the help, if that makes sense. And that's unfortunate. And that's costed him. Also, he picked fights with people. He picked fights with people for no reason. No good reason. He's a coward. Just like Jordy is. He's a coward. They picked fights with people that they shouldn't have picked fights with. You want to agree to disagree? Fine. But to sit there and draw it out and to make multiple videos on each other and do debates and shit, and then you just squirm off and shit after you lose, or after you're perceived to lose, is just a bad look. On top of that, he neglected the channel. ReviewTechUSA went to streaming because he saw the free lunch that DSP was getting. And he thought that, okay, I'll transition into this, and maybe that will get me into radio or something along those lines. Which it probably could have if it wasn't for all the weird ass gay jokes and all the other silly ass shit that he does. There's no reason to take him seriously. On top of that, Rich's obsession with DSP and the money that DSP makes, despite the humiliation and everything like that, Rich thought that was right up his alley. Rich believes that he can debate anybody and win. His track record says otherwise. And he believes that if he dunks on Phil, people would gravitate to him. That was true. Couldn't hold them though. He couldn't hold on to those people. And then in the beginning of 2024, he ended up alienating himself and starting that war. Just in case you guys forget, that war, quote unquote, that he started with detractors was his response to the Mike Klum situation and him, ReviewTech, predicting that there was going to be a detractor civil war, which didn't really happen, or at least not the way that he thought. It's definitely a civil war, but it's not the way he described, let alone it was going on before him anyway. So there was that. Because of Rich's inability to take criticism, he made shit and he made shit worse for himself. So the lack of actual focus on gaming news or reviewing shit, the drama, picking fights with people he didn't need to pick fights with, his general laziness, his drug addiction or his marijuana addiction, his drug addiction, all these things have kind of snowballed into the scenario that he's at now. Now, truth be told, I had said that what really capped all that off when he admitted that he was a lolcow. Now, he did that he did that under the pretense of getting an own over DSP, saying, hey, I'm a lolcow, I'm accepting it. Wings is a lolcow, he's accepting it. Boogie's a lolcow, he's accepting it, you should accept it too. The problem is that shit manifested. All it did was open him up to for a new group of people to pay more attention to him and what's going on. And then it exposed all the fucked up shit that he's done. You can thank Mikey No More for that. You can thank all of the old school trolls and shit, ReviewTechUSA trolls back in the day for that, and those who preserve that content and whatnot, who helped put that out there and keep it out there and preserve it. And then eventually detractors like myself as well as others started throwing shots at him downrange. Kino Casino ended up getting into that, and then it just kind of snowballed into all that bullshit. But truth be told, I've been taking shots at ReviewTech for a long ass time because I followed early ReviewTechUSA trolls. So a lot of detractors did it, believe it or not. It just wasn't. ReviewTech is so boring that no one really wanted to deal with him and whatnot. And he was fortunate enough to get away with it. And instead of counting himself lucky that he was able to, basically fly under the radar, he fucked around and found out. Now he's in this ongoing situation with T, which, to be honest with you, Sly T has already beaten him like multiple times over, but Rich keeps talking, so Sly's gonna keep talking back. Most detractors, trolls, haters, and critics just laugh at that shit on detractor Twitter or in Discord and just move on with their day. And Rich wants to try to rebuild his relationship with other detractors through the few people that he has in contact with, probably Duty. And that's not going to work for various reasons, on top of all the stuff that Duty's done recently and whatnot, like how that Ethan Ralph situation went. He doesn't have any options. He doesn't have any ground, to be honest with you. And then the million sub channel. Now, ReviewTechUSA's main channel is dead and gone. I don't care, you shouldn't care, no one should care. Because Rich didn't care. All those years, all those people who supported him, this, that, and the third, and he fucked around and he found out. He was botting views. He was botting subs. It was never really a million sub channel, to be honest with you. Go back on a far enough timeline, most of those views probably weren't legit over the last few years either. It is what it was. Now, how do we know all this? Well, we know all this because he sat there, ReviewTech, took shots at Tipster. Tipster went up there, punked ReviewTech's ass, and basically made him send him the reason on what actually happened. Come to find out, because of view botting and sub botting and other suspicious activities. And that's why ReviewTech got rid of it, because he felt he was making more money on the streaming channel than he was on his main channel. Now, outside of the just general retardation of having a asterisk or a quote unquote million sub channel that's producing anywhere from $800 to what, $1,200, $1,600 a month in passive income. Holy shit. And then him saying recently, he's basically retconned his story on why he dropped the channel, saying that he wasn't interested in doing gaming content or tech news anymore, only to now on his streaming channel to be doing game talk, game stories, and tech news and reviews. The very thing he could have been doing on his main channel while still grifting off DSP on his streaming channel, he's now doing all of it on the grifting streaming channel. Make it make sense. Make it make sense. And yeah, he's pulling his 15,000, maybe 20,000 views or whatever, but on his main channel, that could have been at least 50,000. You know, if he goes ahead and gets those view bots fired up, he might be able to pull 150,000, whatever. ReviewTech was destined to fail, just like Wings was, because he got into his own way. He made enemies with people he didn't have to. There were plenty of people that he could have collaborated with back in the day. There was plenty of things that he could have done joint stories with back in the day, and he didn't do it and whatnot. And then it's even funnier because he would ridicule people for certain things that he himself was involved in. For example, this is real crazy. I didn't even know about this. I found this out till, like, I think Mikey, I watched this in the Mikey No More video, and then I can't remember if John Riley or if it was Renton Liar who posted it on Twitter, and I ended up getting it from one of them. But come to find out, I can't remember now. I'm pretty sure it might have been all three for all I know. Big ups to all three of them. But basically, ReviewTechUSA was part of Camden. Camden was that fucking AI program for that supposed free speech app that fucking Monday Matt was part of, and most of the skeptics were. And come to find out, it was nothing more than a fucking bot that they were training to go ahead and not only get rid of people, not only what's the term I'm using? I want to use, I should say. Not only to censor people, right, but to also help saturate or push off or push down people on YouTube and on Twitter from getting any likes or whatever if it went against certain political views and or norms that they didn't want to be promoted. Review Tech was part of that shit. And I didn't even know that. And I should have connected the dots because he's cool with Monday Matt. But I didn't, but I don't remember him ever posting up anything about that or whatever, but I wasn't following Rich that close at that time. So he had his hands in that bullshit. So some of the very censorship that Rich is bitching about now, he contributed to it. He's part of the reason. Isn't that crazy? But he never talks about that shit. He never brings that shit up though. He never brings up that he was part of that shit. I'm gonna try to see if I can find that and I'll insert that shit in here so you can see what I'm talking about. But he was actually part of that bullshit. And none of his names have come up because I've heard, excuse me, when the kill stream was around, his name didn't come up. When, what was it? Is it Honest Opinion? Or is it Honest? I can't think of his name now. Is it the guy with the flaming skull? It's like, has like a blue thing on it. Kind of reminds me of Ichigo's, of his Vesper mask, or Vester mask, or however you pronounce it. It kind of reminds me of that shit. But I want to say his name's Honest Opinion, but I don't remember him speaking on Review Tech in there. I don't remember any story up until the Mikey No More video, or like I said, or it was John Riley and Renton Liar on Twitter who actually were like, yeah, Review Tech is part of that shit. But I'm gonna give all three of them credit, but I can't remember which one it was that I saw it in. I'm gonna look for it now. If I can find it, I'll insert it in here. But he was part of that bullshit and nobody ever reported on him being part of it. You know what I'm saying? That's how ReviewTechUSA was able to slip between the cracks, which is wild because the very criticism or very censorship that he's been bitching about over the years, he's part of it. You know what I'm saying? That's so fucking crazy to me. That's so crazy to me. I'm gonna try to find that clip. I'm really gonna try to find it so you guys can see what I'm talking about. But wild shit. Rich is just he's just a scumbag. He's just a scumbag. He's a greedy, resentful, jealous, belligerent scumbag. He always has been, he always will be. And so whatever opportunities he had, he took it, but it was just greed. You know what I'm saying? So he did the bare minimum and got nothing out of it. This was someone who, I think the first Dollar Shave Club commercial I ever saw was on his channel. He was with them for a while until they eventually got rid of him, which is actually what happened. As well as almost every other sponsorship. There's no reason why Rich is not like the Quartering or like some of these gaming channels who has multiple sponsorships all over his shit. There's no reason why Rich doesn't have that. But he don't, because he's a fucking asshole. And because he won't stick to business, right? And if he doesn't get his immediate payout right away, you know what I'm saying? He wants to quit. Look at what happened over there with LolCal Tech, which is now called LolCal Madhouse. Look at how quickly he quit that shit. It wasn't even a month before he sat there and quit that shit. Oh, that's right. He didn't quit. He got fired. Womp womp. He got fired. Or look at the situation after he left, or after he got fired from LolCal Basement, or from LolCal Madhouse, sorry. He goes back to his own channel. RTU streams becomes LolCal Basement. LolCal Basement turns into, I can't remember what he calls it after that. Does he call it The Basement or some shit? Some dumb shit like that. And now he just calls it real. Hold, actually, give me a second. I can actually look this up on Twitter really, really fast. Give me just a second. He ain't sat there and changed the channel name like multiple times and shit. The signs of a true quitter, by the way. Let's see here. Is it this right here? Okay, he calls himself Rich Tomorrow now. So, but like I said, he originally was called RTU Streams, then it became LolCal Basement. Then I think he may have called it The Basement or something along the lines. Now it's called Rich Tomorrow. Yet again, because he tried to get traction off of LolCal, the LolCal Nation, basically. Failed at that miserably, and then just kept changing all of his names and shit until he found something that he was comfortable with. You want another example, a much older example? I can do that. Go back and look at well, you can't. Oh, you can actually. I'm sorry, because there's a bunch of different Review Tech USA archive channels out there now. There are at least 3 that I go to, but there's actually like 6 of them. But there's 3 in particular that I go to. They have at least one of them has all of his videos, and I think they're all in chronological order. If you look at how his setup changed from, I want to tell you, from 2018, 2019 up until 2020, and then you look at how many times it's changed from 2020 up until 2023, 2024, he was damn near changing the setup every goddamn week until he could find something that he thought was appealing to people, instead of giving it some real time and letting it play out. And letting it play out is 3 months, 6 months at the very least. And he couldn't do that because he needed instant gratification. He needed people to say, hey guys, look, I changed something, give me money. Does that sound familiar to you? It should, because that's what DSP does. Where did Rich get that idea from? More than likely DSP, except for DSP never changes anything. He just tells you that he changes everything, or that he tells you he is changing. Rich, you can give him some credit, I guess, and say that, oh, well, he at least did change, but it didn't matter when he just changed it again later. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, he never gave himself time to grow, not as a content creator, not as a streamer. And don't get me wrong, you know, people get complacent, people get comfortable. I could fall into that category just as easily as the next person. Problem is, I don't run around here telling you that I change every goddamn day though either, do I? So there's that. Rich and Wings are what they have for careers in air quotes really does mirror themselves, and it really justifies, if not certifies, why they're actual lolcows, to be honest. And the truth is, ladies and gentlemen, is that anybody can be a lolcow. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they both back in their day brought in massive views. Legit. They both brought in a lot of views legitimately for a time, I should say. Look at how quickly they lost it. Look at how quickly they alienated themselves to the different communities that they were a part of. And now look, now they're both scraping the bottom of the barrel. Rich is still trying to grift off DSP and basically and whatnot. And while he's at war with the DSP detractor community, which he had already lost. And then Wings sat there and lost his goddamn mind because he's a fucking drug addict. He had lost his goddamn mind because he wasn't on his drug, and sat there and fucking hurt his wife on fucking camera, on stream. And now he's gonna have to crawl back because he don't have no other choice. But now he has to wear the jacket of being a wife beater. Just like ReviewTechUSA has to wear the jacket of being a neglectful father. You guys did everything in your power to earn it. You guys deserve it. Now you guys just need to own it, to be honest. There's no changing it. It is what it is. Now, I can keep calling Rich, for example, a neglectful father and this, that, and the third. At the end of the day, what I say doesn't matter. All he needs to do is actually, I don't know, be a good father to his children. Help them grow up to be productive fucking people. And that's really that's all that really matters. That's like an unsung war, right? Where the victory is never really talked about because that's a personal victory. That's not something you come online for ass pats. For Wings, I'm going to call him a fucking wife beater because he is. I'm going to call him an addict because he is. And what's he going to do about it? Not a goddamn thing, because it's true. He's done everything in his power to prove it. Fucking Boogie and Keemstar told him, or they've admitted and told him, hey, we wanted him off of his Lexapro because we were hoping we could wing him off of it. His body, they believe that his body would regulate himself. That's weird, being that fucking Keemstar is an alcoholic, apparently. So you're sitting there trying to take advice from a dude who has a drinking problem. Smart move, Wings. Smart move. So good luck with that. And on top of that, he can't, Keemstar, let's go ahead and let's throw him into this trifecta of bullshit. He's getting ready to cement himself into lolcow status in a fantastic sort of way, because he can't handle the criticism for having that pedo kid behind the camera, the liar over cancer, Boogie. Now he has to bring Wings back in. Everybody knows he's bringing Wings back in. Some people are mad about it. He has to eat criticism on that. He's getting mad because now he's being looked at as a domestic abuse advocator, which he is and he isn't. Which goes back to a video that I did record some time ago, and I ended up vaulting it. It kind of got lost in the shuffle. I gotta be honest. It really got lost in the shuffle, and it never got put out. But now I want to redo it because now I have a whole new twist on it. For some of you who may remember, when Lolcow Live first started, 007 went up there to debate Wings, which ended up really turning into a 3-on-1. But he went up there to debate Wings and to try to get the point across to Boogie and Keem about how Wings was a bad person. And it didn't play out well, to be honest with you, because it was literally a 3-on-1 jumping, and none of those guys have any more, like, Wings, Keem, and Boogie have no morals or values, so what would they care? Which is ironic, because wasn't there some guy out there that was sexualizing Keem's daughter and shit? So and I'm not sure if Wings 007 knew that at the time, but if he did know that at the time, he should have used it. I don't think he did, but because I don't think he knew. But if he did, he should have gone ahead and put that out there. He should have thrown that into Keem's face and shit. But semantics. Like I said, I went over that video, but I don't think I ever posted it. I'm gonna redo that video. I'm gonna go over that debate again, and there's a reason for that. When Wings goes back on that show, there are gonna be people that are gonna want to debate. I'm definitely gonna want to probably put my ticket in the hat on that shit. To be honest, if that ends up becoming a thing, and I don't care if it's 3-on-1 or not, like I'm ready to put I want to put my hat into the fucking fray on that bullshit. And we'll go over the Wings video, and I'll show you. We'll go over the Wings 007 Lolcow Live debate, and I'll show you exactly what kind of people 007 was going up against and why things didn't play out the way 007 thought. Because yet again, he went up there thinking that he could appeal to these guys and whatnot, to some type of morality or whatever. And none of those guys on Lolcow have any. None of them do. So, you know what I'm saying? His approach needed to be different and whatnot. And then, like I said, each one of them had holes in their game that I feel like 007 could have exploited. And like I said, if he didn't know, then he didn't know. But if he did know, he should have used it. So I'll work on that and whatnot, because I think that that debate was about an hour, maybe 45 minutes, give or take. But truth be told, they were never going to give 007 a fair one in that. In that, they were trying to protect the brand. So they would have discounted everything that 007 said anyway. And not even 007, anybody who went up there, they would have discounted. They would have immediately brushed him off to the side, try to make them out to be crazy or whatever the fuck. So it wouldn't have mattered either which way. It didn't have to be 007. It could have been anybody at that time. Not now. Not now. You know what I'm saying? Now, it's going to be real hard to go ahead and try to explain some shit away, or try to duck or try to dismiss shit now. And if it's true that supposedly there's rumblings going on where, you know, if Wings goes back up there, they know that there are going to be people who are going to want to debate them, and there may actually be like an open forum for that shit. I want my name in there. I'll put my name in that bitch right now. Damn sure I want a piece of that if that's actually a thing, to be honest. Because all three of those guys are scumbags and whatnot, and they're gonna take every bit of it. I'm not even in there to try to win. I'm there to destroy. I'm there to do damage. I don't need to win. You know what I'm saying? I don't need to win. All I need to do is cause damage, to be honest. And truth be told, looking back at that 007 one, I wish that's what he went in there to do. Instead of trying to prove a point, I wish he just went in there to try to do damage. It would have hurt them far more in the long run. Whatever. That's just me though. Anywho, that's my thoughts. That's how I feel as it pertains to Wings of Redemption and ReviewTechUSA, and the mistakes that they made, why they're at where they're at, why they don't have any real prospects, and they're just kind of floating around. And I could have thrown DSP in there too, and maybe I'll do a follow-up later. But for right now, I think focusing on those two Lolcow monkeys, I think I'm satiated enough, at least at the moment. But what do you guys think? How do you guys feel? You know what I'm saying? Do you guys feel differently and whatnot? Do you feel like, you know, maybe Wings, it doesn't matter, this was always going to be Wings' natural progression to fail and to be mocked and ridiculed and shit and this, that, and the third? ReviewTechUSA, do you feel like, oh, he actually had ground? He actually could have been more than what he was? You know, am I wrong? Was it, you know, was it an oversight? Am I being biased? And maybe he really could have made good? and maybe the main channel could have stayed up and he could have still been prosperous and whatnot. What do you think? How do you feel? Whatever. Anything and everything's appreciated. Ladies and gentlemen, this is, I'll name this segment later, GTG Spits That Grease. And take care of yourselves, people. You know what I'm saying? Just take care of yourselves. And no, don't think, but no. Anybody's capable of being a lolcow, including myself. You know what I'm saying? You could spend, you know what I'm saying? Like my father always told me, you know what I'm saying? You could build a great reputation 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and you can lose it just that quickly. Just one lapse in judgment, you can lose it all, to be honest. And yeah, there'll always be people that will stick by you. But no, don't think, but no, those people who stick by you are going to somewhat doubt you too. It's just the reality. That's human nature. And, you know, just tread carefully. You know what I'm saying? Make your next move your best move. And remember, all the people who you pass up on the way up are going to be waiting for your ass on your way down. And I think that's something that Wings, and I think especially Rich, those guys didn't take heed of that. They didn't understand it. Maybe they didn't even know it. And so it's ironic that they were kicked and whatnot and bashed and ridiculed and lambasted or whatever the fuck you want to call it on the way down. It's actually rather fitting if you think about it. Anywho, ladies and gentlemen, this has been, I'll name the segment later, GTG Spits That Grease. Take care of yourselves, people, and I'll catch you on the flip. Later.